Hello and welcome to The Big Fight, which returns once again to a subject that I actually was beginning to feel is almost behind us. India-Pakistan relations and the situation. This has been one of the ugliest weeks between India and Pakistan for quite a long time. Lots of shelling on the border, a number of completely innocent civilians who've been killed, and an escalation of temperatures in just the last few days. So where exactly are we headed with India-Pakistan relations in general? What exactly is behind the recent provocations that we have been seeing and the killing of civilians, and what can we do to try and diffuse the situation? Those are just some of the questions we're going to try and address. Joining us from Mumbai, Nalin Kohli of the BJP. We have Rashmi Kant, spokesperson of the Congress Party, with us right here in the studio. Vivek Karchu is with us as well, former secretary of the MEA. Ajay Shukla, one of our best-known defense analysts, is with us as well. Sushant Sareen joins us, strategic affairs expert, is joining us also. And joining us from Pakistan, Musharraf Zaidi, one of the most respected political analysts from Pakistan, is joining us. And Syed Tariq Pirzada is also going to be with us in just a couple of minutes from Pakistan. Can I just start from you, Mr. Karchu? What exactly is happening, and why is there suddenly this escalation of temperatures?
I think we've got to place this in a wider perspective. Mr. Modi seems to be in a process of laying down markers for India-Pakistan relations, and I can discern four elements. The first is a desire to have good relations with them, and that was indicated by his invitation to Mr. Nawaz Sharif as part of SAARC leaders being invited.
That was at the swearing in.
At the swearing in. Then three other things have been added which shows that there is a caveat to this. The first is that official dialogue with Pakistan will be held only subject to Pakistan observing the normal rules of such dialogue. No dialogue is held by one of the interlocutors with separatists. That's an international convention.
So he's laying down these markers. That's one.
Second is that India is no longer concerned with Pakistani threats of difficulties evolving into nuclear confrontation or internationalization of Jammu and Kashmir. He said so in his UNGA speech, where he told Nawaz Sharif that you think by raising this issue at this forum, you will be in a manner of speaking achieve something. And I think the last point that he is making is that while all this is fine, Pakistan has to observe the basic courtesies of international relations when it comes to dealing with India, and that India will not be deterred by violence. India will respond to violence in kind and forcefully.
Mr. Zaidi, let me just come to you. Your interpretation of what exactly is happening. Why would there be unprovoked firing? Why are civilians being killed?
Well, I think, there's this culture between Indians and Pakistanis, and it's going to get worse, I believe, in the coming weeks and months and years because of the muscular stand that Prime Minister Modi and his right-wing allies, his right-wing sort of kitchen cabinet.
I get you're saying that Mr. Modi has a muscular stance and right-wing and whatever you were saying, but if Pakistan is opening unprovoked firing, what has that got to do with Mr. Modi's muscular stance?
The position that the Pakistani military has articulated is that these violations are coming from the Indian side. The position that the Indians have taken on this is that the violations are coming from the Pakistani side. The Indians have claimed that there's been a number of civilian fatalities, and each one of them is tragic. The Pakistanis have claimed that there have been a number of civilian fatalities, and of course those are also tragic. And this game of back and forth and blame, one party blames the other, then the other blames the other, and trying to fix the truth in this becomes a nationalistic exercise where Indians quite rightly would believe what the Indian army is telling them, and the Pakistanis, if you'll forgive us for doing so, being Pakistani, are going to actually accept and believe what our government and what our military tells us. So between sort of the back and forth, we're not actually going to get anywhere.
Let's just come to the crux of the issue. Nalin, what's being said by Musharraf Zaidi is that, look, the Pakistani side, and that's what the latest statements are all saying, that the firing is not coming from us, the firing is coming from America. And he says this is part of the markers that Mr. Karchu said Narendra Modi is laying down, that And Mr. Modi says, and the government, Indian government is saying, look, we've just said that if you attack us, we're going to respond, which is fair enough. But the Pakistani side is saying that you're firing first.
First of all is what Mr. Karchu has said, and as an expert of his field, he's put out those markers. But I think there are two other important things that the Defence Minister, Mr. Jaitley, said. One, he said if there is a risk, if our response will be there to such a situation of ceasefire violation, it's going to be more than adequate, and adventurism will prove costly to Pakistan. So I think now Mr. Zaidi has chosen to call this as the right-wing gameplay or something like that. I wouldn't buy too much into that. India doesn't really need to ratchet up anything. The last of all for what? We don't have an internal constituency that needs to be constantly told that India is in danger because of the great threat from Pakistan. We don't seem to have any conflict. We don't at all, in fact, ever have had a conflict between the army and the civilians and, of course, a whole set of non-state players, as Pakistan calls them. The issues are internal in Pakistan, external as it is. That's for them to sort out. However, the muscular stand, as Mr. Zaidi points out about Prime Minister Modi's government, is, I think, fascinating. So their entire approach to a relationship with India appears to be that India should really not do anything to protect itself. As long as Pakistan chooses, they can fire. As long as Pakistan chooses, they can say, why don't we talk?
Mr. Zaidi, the point that is often being made in the Indian side for the last week is that what does India have to gain right now from ratcheting up any tension? India actually doesn't stand to gain. If anything, if tensions go up, then, this entire question of internationalization and other things get worse. If anything, it's Pakistan which might need to distract attention from some of the other things that are happening internally. What does India need to gain from firing first or from ratcheting up tensions?
Look, maybe some of the friends in India weren't following the election campaign as closely as some of us were. So we know what some of the things that were said, including by Prime Minister Modi, and we chalked them up to the fervor of an electoral campaign. In our election campaign, which took place earlier in May 2013, the only mention of India was one positive, and Nawaz Sharif won the election partly on the back of his promise to transform relations with
the very first thing that Narendra Modi did on being sworn in, the very first thing he did on being sworn in was to call Nawaz Sharif a crossfire. If he wanted to say, if you're saying, yeah, this is part of what he wants to do, he wants to teach Pakistan a lesson, why invite Nawaz Sharif over? Why make that the very first thing he actually does as Prime Minister?
Maybe the dynamic between Amit Shah ji and Arun Jaitley ji, and sort of the old school and the new school sort of, Modi camps. There's some conflict. I don't know Indian politics as well as you do. What I will say is very simple. Whilst you're presenting this challenge to us that why would India ratchet up tensions, I would ask exactly the same question of us. We have more than our hands full with a massive insurgency in the northern areas, with a fully active major military operation called Zarb-e-Azb in North Waziristan. The Prime Minister has got both his hands tied in front of him, behind him, with the political conflict that he faces through Imran Khan.
But
the economy is kind of, it's in all kinds of trouble.
But history shows that the best thing to do at a time like this is to go and do some India bashing. Everyone comes together and says, yes, now all is well. Fine, we are shelling India. It's a great thing to happen.
Vikram.
Well, look, the TTP is not going to sort of, join together. The TTP isn't one of the actors that we consider to be of Pakistan or Pakistani, in the sense that it'll help, that an attack on India or somehow ratcheting up tensions will make things better. So I think there are enough things domestically to keep the army and the politicians in Pakistan occupied. And the real challenge for Pakistan is largely internal. We're desperate, I think, both the political class by and large parts of the military. There's resistance in every society and every institution, but we're quite keen to have a normal and growing relations with India. But it doesn't look like it's about to happen. It looks like we're taking several steps back instead of steps forward.
All right, but again, the question is who actually calls the shots. Okay, Musharraf Zaidi, I know you have to leave us now. Thank you so much for having joined us. I'll just turn to other panelists and get a sense of what we just heard from Pakistan and otherwise.
Vikram, I need to respond
Nalin, do you want to first respond to, is there been a change in the mindset of Narendra Modi?
I'll drop the diplomatic language now and just get blunt. I think Pakistan is perilously close to being declared a failed state, a nuclear state, a terrorist state. I mean, their economy really requires foreign assistance to really even stand up on its own 2 feet. So I think if Pakistan is really looking out there and trying to justify its existence based on trying to talk with India and fire at will, it's not going to happen. And for all the comments against Mr. Jaitley or Mr. Amit Shah or Prime Minister Modi, let's be very blunt about it. They are not going to be looking for, nice sweets to come across and nice words to come across. They'll defend India and Indian interests. And they'll defend it, if I may use the word, ruthlessly. There's going to be no giving up of Indian rights, of Indian security at all. And the last point I want to make is infiltration and the ratcheting up of what we see as tension on the border are almost directly proportional. Pakistan has a game plan that hasn't worked for them. It hasn't taken them anywhere except to be perilously close to being a failed state. It's not going to work in the future and certainly not under the new dispensation in Delhi.
Okay, let me get the others in now. Rashmikant, your response to all that you've heard. And then I want to get Sushant, Sareen and Ajay.
There's a couple of points that I'd like to raise. The Pakistani army wants to send a signal to India, to the civilians in Pakistan, to the civilian government in Pakistan and to the rest of the world, that the foreign policy and defense policy vis-a-vis India is run by Pakistani army and not by the civilian government. And that power has been ceded to the army, and the civilian government does not need to be talked to. Point number one. Point number two, I think the reason why they ratcheted this up was that they wanted to test and really size up India and Mr. Modi, and which is what I think China also did to an extent. In both cases, they have suddenly realized that even though I must sort of tell you that in the last 10 years, the incidents of violence, civilians killed, security forces killed, incidents, etc., went down by 90%. Why did they suddenly go up? It was because of the following reasons.
Mr. Rashmikant, you were coming perilously close to saying, I think this is what you were heading towards, before you suddenly realized I'm in the Congress and not in the BJP. You were about to say that they tried.
I am very clear.
You were about to say that they were trying to size up Mr. Modi, and they both realized that perhaps it's not the best thing to do. Is that what you were about to say?
I was not about to say that at all.
I was saying that I was
going to respond to Nalin's point.
I don't think Mr. Kant would like to be in the same position.
The Pakistanis have a game plan, and I was going to come to the point to say that Pakistanis do not have a game plan.
So what does this have to do with them testing Narendra Modi, which is what you were starting to say?
No, the point is that they were sizing up Mr. Narendra Modi to see that when they have to send, instead of a shawl, they have to send a waistcoat to him. Do they send a 56-inch waistcoat or 5.6-inch waistcoat? That is the important thing that they are trying to test.
All right. Fair enough.
So,
Sushant.
Well, I'm happy to know that the Congress party would like to see Pakistan hurt India's interests so they can score a political point on Mr. Modi,
I did not say that
rather
at all.
than
I
actually
think
back up government of
misinterpretation,
India,
Nalin,
which
on your
works for
part.
everyone.
I said they were sizing them up just as Mr. Narendra Modi would be sizing up Mr. Nawaz Sharif and the Chinese government.
Nalin, I actually think that that he was coming perilously close, given the Shashi Tharoor example, of actually saying that they were testing Narendra Modi to see just how he would respond and whether he does have a 56-inch chest or not.
Yes.
So I think that is the point
so
he was
too.
trying
That's
to make.
why I pointed out that, what's happening
Nalin,
in
I think that's a very
Kerala, the
gross
last thing he wants
misinterpretation
happening
on
in
your
Delhi.
part.
Okay.
It is now going to be seen in the days ahead how they size up Mr. Narendra Modi.
Okay. Sushant Sareen, let me get you in now at that point. What do you think is happening? What led to the latest burst of firing, and how can it be de-escalated?
Just to respond to my friend Rashmi, I think the Pakistanis should have got a measure twice in the last couple of months. The first time in August and now in this latest fracas. They would have got a measure of Mr. Modi's chest size, and probably the waistcoat would not be 5.6 inches, but somewhere close to 56 if you look at the kind of response which has come from the Indian side, which is a lot more which can be said for what happened both in terms of the conflicting signals which went from the previous government as well as the intensity of response, or rather the lack of it. But having said that, it's not entirely clear, and to this extent I would agree with Musharraf Zaidi that it's not entirely clear what really started this whole thing. It could have been part of a larger strategic game plan, either to test the resolve of the government or to increase tensions on the border, in order that when the Indians retaliate, then the Pakistanis will go crying to the international community. But if that was the game plan, then I think the Pakistanis will have another thought coming, because they have very little credibility as far as the international community is concerned. A lot of the people in the international community actually tolerate the Pakistanis for reasons of their own compulsions, because of the Afghanistan angle. So I'm not very sure that there will be a lot of sympathetic ears for the Pakistani side. if they are going to go crying to the international community after having first started it, because they have a very, very low credibility as far as the international community is concerned.
I want to turn to Ajay Shukla in just a minute, but Syed Tariq Pirzada also joining us from Pakistan. At the end of the day, Mr. Pirzada, there was suddenly this burst of firing that came in from Pakistan. Of course, I know Pakistan is saying that we didn't start it, India started it, and so on and so forth. Is it testing of Narendra Modi to some extent to see just how he is going to react? Is it trying to distract attention from other things that are happening within Pakistan? Or is it really an effort to try and get back the attention of the international community?
Well, no, it shows the mindset in New Delhi that somehow Pakistan can be bullied. And this
Pakistan
has been
shelling India is New Delhi's mindset of trying to figure out how to bully Pakistan. Is that what you're saying?
No, I don't put words in my mouth. Let me
Pakistan
form
will
my
shell
own,
us?
construct my own expressions.
Okay.
Quickly, the issue is this, that this Prime Minister of Pakistan named Nawaz Sharif came to power with this theory that Pakistan has to have great relations with India, and he has been obsessed with having great relations with India since the time of Vajpayee. If you remember that.
But the whole point, Mr. Pirzada, if I can just interrupt you in full flow. Hang on. No one's doubting Nawaz Sharif. The question, no one's saying that Nawaz Sharif is ordering the firing, but the question is that Nawaz Sharif called the shots, literally in this case, or is it the Pakistani army that's calling the shots? And in which case, that's why they're firing.
Let me give you the answer. The Security Committee meeting that was held today, it was the announcement came out from, from the words and from the mouth of Mr. Chaudhry Nisar, the Interior Minister of Pakistan, and several other ministers were there. They made the announcement, not the army, that we will give India a befitting response. We are a nuclear
state. Because the Pakistani army's point is that India is firing first. Obviously, anybody will say, if the Pakistani army says we are not firing, it's India firing at us, obviously the political leadership will say, well, fire back.
Let's try to make sense out of what is happening. Look, this was the occasion of Eid. 3 days of Eid means 3 days of religious occasion for Pakistan. The Pakistani
and in India also, by the way, Eid is a festival in India too, and Indian civilians were killed on that time. Eid is a festival on both sides of the border.
India had no occasion. It was Pakistan. So Pakistani soldiers
Eid is celebrated. Hello, wait a minute.
As the rest of the country.
Excuse me. I had some really nice celebrations on Eid, as did many of us here in India. So Eid is celebrated on both sides of the border. And there were Indian civilians killed on Eid as well.
I
Well,
think
that's it. Kashmir is a Muslim territory. So basically, the majority of the Kashmiris
Is he
are
aware
also
that there are
wanting
more
to
Muslims
celebrate
in India
Eid.
than in Pakistan?
So why are you confusing the two issues?
No, I'm saying that you are contesting whether Eid is a festival in India, and I'm saying Eid is a festival in India. I can assure you, I had some absolutely fantastic.
We're
biryani.
talking about
national
Muslims
holiday.
only. Again, do not confuse it with the Hindu philosophy.
Sorry, what does this have to do with
talking
Hindu
about?
philosophy? Okay, I'm sorry.
Are you even getting into this?
I don't know where we're headed to right now. So let me just call. Let me try and get us
Sir,
back.
it's it's a national holiday in India on Eid. Are you aware of it?
That's for the Muslims.
It
is not for the Muslims, it is for the entire nation, sir.
You started firing.
Only if you had a good
and
time
as a
on
result
Eid.
of that, both Muslims died on both sides of the border.
And
both sides
how
of the
many
line
of you
in
know it's a
Gujarat.
national
You
holiday?
guys are
All
not
of
making
you.
any sense. You guys are not making any
All right,
sense.
fine.
It's a
So
national
it's a holiday for all of us,
Pakistanis-
Mr. Pirzada. Thank you very
And
much.
for both the
No, but
Eids,
it's,
by the way.
it's-
Okay, Mr.
but-
Karju.
No, I think Mr. Pirzada is articulating a strongly held belief in Pakistan that India is Hindu. He doesn't realize that India
The
is a
majority
secular
of
country.
India is Hindu. Of course.
India is a secular country,
India
Mr.
is a
Pirzada.
secular, multi-ethnic,
Are you denying
multi-cultural,
that?
multi-religious
I would love to
country.
re-debate the
Hindu
two-nation theory.
What kind
As a
of
matter of
Can I come in?
God
As a matter of
does
fact,
have
Nemo,
elementary knowledge?
Mr.
He
Pirzada,
does not have elementary
Mr.
knowledge of
Pirzada, just
India.
as a point of fact, there are more Indian Muslims
point
than there are
is-
Pakistani
the point
Muslims.
is
I'll
correct.
show
you
you that.
guys did
There are
not
more Indian
respect
Muslims than there are
Pakistan's
Pakistani
religious
Muslims.
occasion
Just as a matter
and
of point.
unleashed your firepower, thinking you would be able to bully us. You got your head, hands, wounded, right then and there.
Sir, I
You're
think
gonna
we need to go
get a
back to
very
history
tough
books.
response. You're
All right.
going to get a very tough response in the
What
days
is that?
ahead.
All right.
This has been made clear by the
All
Security
right.
Committee.
Nalin, you're
Vikram,
trying to
can I
respond to what
complete?
Mr. Pirzada just said.
Honestly speaking, I don't know whether I should respond or be amused. However, just
Do
by
not
listening to what
respond-
Mr.
respond to
Pirzada
your
said,
own thoughts.
you know, they love conspiracy theories.
Nalin, you
Let
did
me-
have a
let me
good
finish,
Eid, right?
Mr. Pirzada. I was very
And
patient.
Eid is still a holiday in
Your
India as far
problem
as
is
I
that you
know.
don't want to swallow what I said.
Absolutely.
You don't want to swallow.
However,
The
let's go just by
reality
what
is
Mr. Pirzada
Pakistan
said.
came back
Let's go.
with a very
Mr.
strong
Pirzada,
military
Mr.
response,
Pirzada.
and that is very insulting
Mr.
to you.
Pirzada,
Now
in fact,
we are
Mr.
launching
Pirzada,
a
I have a
worldwide,
recommendation. Mr.
diplomatic
Pirzada,
offensive.
I have a
the
suggestion.
agreement is
Your
almost dead
government
at the
must
present
send you
time.
to the United
You guys
States
are
and the
losing the
UN.
battle.
You would do a credible job in also telling the rest of the world what a serious argument that is.
I think we have a
Anyway,
wonderful
let's get back to
institution
what
in
he was
Agra,
saying. The
where
conspiracy
Vikram
theory
Listen
that
to
we
your
are
friends
proposing
in Washington.
is that
You know what
Pakistan,
Washington
hold on,
said?
Pakistan,
You know what Washington has
Pakistan
said?
expects
Resume the
Prime Minister
dialogue.
Modi.
Dialogue that has been cancelled by
Pakistan
you.
expects,
That's the advice
you need to
from your
shut down that
strategic affairs,
mic
strategic partner
Sorry,
in Washington.
Vikram.
All right,
It's
Nalin,
impossible
finish
to
what you were
speak like
saying, then I
this.
want to come to the others.
Okay, I'm just saying, look at Pakistan's theory. It's the conspiracy theory works that on Eid, India,
There is
to
no
check
conspiracy
out
theory.
what will be Pakistan's
It's a-
response to
it's
its
a
Prime
clear
Minister,
fact. It's a fact
ask
about
Pakistan
the
to
fight as the day
shell
lies.
Indians, kill people in Armenia, and then Pakistan is celebrating Eid in
Those-
this
the
beautiful,
people living
peaceful
on the other
hamlet,
side of
so that the
line
rest
of
of the
control are
world,
Muslims.
all of them
Why
take
would we
visas to
fire
come and visit
upon
Pakistan.
our own
What
people?
a joke.
That's
What
a
a
ridiculous
joke.
thing. The people living
What a
on the other
joke.
side of the line of control.
Nothing
Because
short of a joke.
you just
And
now
this,
said,
I
you
think
just
is
now
comic.
said that
This
the
is comic.
Pakistan Taliban
This
is killing
comic,
the Pakistanis
non-serious,
themselves.
and I'm
He's talking about
delighted
why would a
that Mr.
Muslim kill a
Pirzada is on
Muslim?
your show.
The
So that
Taliban
he
there is
only
fighting the
confirms
Pakistani army.
Why no
It is
Muslim
the army
Indian
which is
will
killing the
ever,
Muslims there.
For one,
ever,
for one,
ever
Mr. Pirzada, I've got
Pakistan
Rashmi
in the
Kant
light
and
they
Nalin
want to
Kohli.
see
I'm
it.
going to give you both stereophonic effect. Rashmi, you're saying something?
Yeah, I said the important point is I think he's forgotten that the gentleman before you just said that the Pakistani Taliban
I don't
is
care what he
fighting the
said.
Pakistani
I don't
army and the
care what
Pakistani
anybody else
army is
said.
busy in
This is Tariq
Waziristan
Pirzada
fighting the
speaking. I'm an analyst.
Pakistani army is busy fighting the Pakistani Taliban.
Okay.
So where is the question of Muslim fighting Muslim?
Pakistani
You are
army
doing
is
it very
not
well for the
busy
world to see in
entirely
Pakistan.
fighting with them.
What are you
We have only
saying in
two
West
divisions
Asia? What
that
are you saying in
handling
Pakistan
the
and
Taliban.
Afghanistan?
Okay.
We have the rest of the armed forces to deal with India.
The only two countries in the world where you see the maximum terrorist deaths on a regular basis are Pakistan and
That's a-
Iraq. What's happening because of the
that's a
civil
cheap
war?
shot.
there. Or
That's a
it's
cheap
Syria.
shot.
That's about
That
it.
is-
No,
and
and
they are
don't forget
talking about a
Afghanistan.
great
Say,
country.
since the
Not a
Americans
single
have
person
stopped
will take a
saying
tourist
you are
visa to
still
Pakistan.
towing that line,
Even
and that
in the
does not
most
make any sense.
inebriated
Terrorism,
sense, even under
there is no
substance
terrorism
abuse.
against India from Pakistan. The rest is garbage.